practicals that we call BugBounty Thursday. Okay, for today, oh, sorry, my name is Stena 254, Stena Alvin. Well, you can find me on Twitter and just by Stena 254. Well, I will talk more as time goes by. For the moment, let me share my screen. I think we have to save some time. I have to save some time. Uh, Meanwhile, the session is being recorded. As usual, it will be available on our YouTube channel. Again, this time round, the session will be recorded in some good, what we call the specs. Last time was not clear, but this time to be more clear. So let me share my screen. Oh yeah, here it is. So for today, as I introduced earlier on the link that we shared, we'll discuss about the what we call access control vulnerabilities and privilege escalation, or the broken access control vulnerabilities. Let me increase my font. What the hell have you guys done? Try select font. I can be more clear. Oh wow, no. Um, let me use 15. Um, hmm. Well, at least almost clear for all of us. So, access control vulnerabilities and privilege escalation. We will discuss what access control security vulnerabilities are, describe the privilege escalation, and the types of vulnerabilities that can arise with the access control. And at the end of the session, we will summarize how to prevent these particular broken access control vulnerabilities. So, what is access control, or what are access control? What's access control? So, access control or access authorization is the application of the constraints on who or what can perform attempted actions or access resources that they have requested. In the context of web applications, access control is dependent on authentication and session management. Authentication identifiers. Okay, here authentication identifies the user and confirms that they are who they should be, or whom they should be. So for again, we have the session management, which identifies which subsequent HTTP requests are being made by that same user. Access control determines whether the user is allowed to carry out the action that they are attempting to perform. Okay, we're not only doing some theory, but after the theory, we're gonna do some practicals. We'll be using the Portugal.net labs or laboratory. Um, hmm. So, broken access control vulnerabilities have critical impacts. For bug bounty hunters, you know these vulnerabilities are usually ranked as high or critical, perhaps in integrity exceptional. So the vulnerabilities have a critical impact. They can lead to vertical and horizontal privilege escalation. We discuss about that some time later on. So from a user perspective, access controls can be divided into the following categories: vertical access controls, horizontal access controls, context-dependent access controls. For vertical access controls, they are mechanisms that restrict access to sensitive functionality that is not available to other types of the users. Okay, so here maybe in layman's language, let's take an example of a given group whereby we have an administrator and the users, or an administrator and the students, whereby for vertical access control, it divides the the rights. An admin is an admin, and a user is a user. So if the user gets the administrative privileges, that's what we call a vertical privilege escalation. So the vertical access controls, they take action to ensure that an admin is an admin, a user is a user, or maybe yeah, a normal user is a normal user, and an administrator is an administrator. So we have the horizontal access controls. Horizontal access controls, they are mechanisms that restrict access to resources to the users who are specifically allowed to access those resources. Let's say user, normal user will have some practicals for the same. The context-dependent access controls. Context Context-dependent access controls restricts access to functionality and resources based upon the state of the application or the user's interaction with. Maybe because let's continue because of time. So, broken access control vulnerabilities, these critical vulnerabilities on the web applications, they can lead to vertical privilege escalation, horizontal privilege escalation. Maybe to repeat, vertical privilege escalation. Here we have two types of users: an administrator and a normal user. So, for vertical privilege escalation, a normal user might escalate himself to have the administrative privileges. That's what called vertical privilege escalation. For horizontal privilege escalation, we have two different normal users. Let's say user one, user two. Okay, let's take an example of a student portal, university student portal. So uh, for user one, let's say Alvin, user two, Gloria. So for Alvin, is a normal user. The administrator is a lecturer. So Alvin is a normal user. He at some point accessing Alvin's student portal is given by ID. Let's say ID 23. That's a ID number 23. So if we change to ID number 24, it will give us access to Gloria's student portal. So at this particular point, this is what called horizontal privilege escalation, getting access to the almost the same account but a different user, but with the same rights. That's what we call horizontal privilege escalation. So you can change from horizontal privilege escalation to vertical privilege escalation. That's still a critical vulnerability. As I said earlier on, we'll do what we call practicals. I love practicals. I don't like theory, but because of the basics, we had to take a walk through the theory part. So for practicals, we're going to use Potrigger labs. And those are theories here, the descriptions and stuff. So we'll start with what we call vertical privilege escalation. Vertical privilege escalation, maybe accessing the administration panel, something like that, without or bypassing or having minimal regulations. So at this particular point, I'm losing this. Okay, it's here. So our first lab, it's our first lab. It's for unprotected functionality. So here we'll access the, let's have what, let's describe the lab. Let's have a look at the lab. Okay, it's our lab. We're not teaching, we will not teach, so we will not have a look at the solutions. So it is unprotected admin functionality. So this lab has an unprotected admin panel. Solve the lab by deleting the user Carlos. So if we delete the user Carlos, we will be at a position to have solved our lab tonight. Our first lab for vertical privilege escalation. So as in this particular lab, the privilege escalation, the vertical privilege escalation, is getting access to the administration panel. So how can we achieve this? Okay, so open access our lab. Sorry for this, but don't know what happened. Huh? So it's our lab. It's an protected admin functionality. Seems on e-commerce website, something like that. So to solve this challenge, we need to delete the user Carlos. So our first option, what we want to do here, maybe let's access the robots.txt file so that you can see what's restricted over there. So we had our directory, robots.txt file. Oh, seems interesting. So on our robots.txt file, here you can have a look. The URL robots.txt. You can copy it. The terminal for closer look. Okay, so this was our URL lab. So it was our URL, our lab URL. So then we added the directory robots.txt. I bet most of us, maybe all of us, know the functions of the robots.txt file. So we added the directory robots.txt file. You can see the user agent disallow administrator panel. So this might be the directory to access the administration panel. So let's do something else. Let's take this particular directory, administrator panel, copy it, and here our lab. Then I have what we call administrator panel directory. You can copy it. Copying and pasting is free. Wow. And so we'll take it over here. Wow. So what have we done now? We have accessed the administrator panel by just adding the directory that we found on the robots.txt, which is administrator panel. Added here. So to solve our lab was to delete the user Carlos. So we delete the user Carlos. Okay, maybe I can have a repetition for this, how I achieve this. Okay, so it's our lab unprotected admin functionality, solving the lab by deleting the user Carlos. So I open the lab URL over here. Can delete this. So I take the URL. Okay, I take the URL, paste it over here to my editing sector, my theater room for the surgeries and stuff for this particular website. Okay, let's continue. So then I add the directory for the robots. Robots. Is S or X? Okay, it's S.txt. We know the function of the robots.txt file or directory. Let's paste it here. For India, lots of confusion. On the robots.txt endpoint, we have the administrator panel here. So I copy this administrator panel endpoint, meaning that this administrator panel endpoint is the one that gives access to the administration panel that will later on grant us the admin panel entry, maybe then finally the vertical privilege escalation. So I take the URL, then I paste it over here with the administrator panel extension. Wow, here we go. We are in, right? So we did the user Carlos. Congratulations. We solved our first laboratory tonight. Less than 5 minutes. That was awesome. It was an easy one, maybe in a range of 1 to 10, we can give it 0.9. Okay, I mean 1. Yeah. That was our first lab. You can have a look at the next lab. So we have attained our first horizontal privilege escalation. Our next lab is okay, so next lab unprotected admin. Okay, maybe what if we could do this? Let's open the labs here. The theory keeps getting interesting, and I can keep reading. So the labs unprotected admin functionality with unpredictable URL. Okay. Uh, at this point, we have just noticed something. We cannot predict the endpoint of the admin panel. We cannot predict the URL or the directory that will lead us to the admin panel. So, unprotected admin functionality with unpredictable universal resource locator. Yeah, that's it. This lab has unprotected admin panel. It's located at an unpredictable location, but the location is disclosed somewhere in the application. Solve the lab by accessing the admin panel and using it to delete the user Carlos. Okay, it's a kind of a CTM-like based. Okay, so our next let's access the lab. Access the lab as our first solution. Um, so this will be a hidden endpoint. So let's take this one. Then I can show you it's a lab URL. So for this particular pointer, the admin functionality has a unpredictable URL. So what I mean now, here we have maybe admin, and maybe hyphen, then something like this, xy231 234, such particular endpoint or directory that can lead you to the admin. So here, to solve this, maybe our first solution now, our hint. Let's have a look at the page source. The source, or maybe some call the page source code. So let's have a look. Okay, I press the Control F, maybe to search in within the code. Let's search for the keyword admin. The keyword admin, because we are going ahead of the admin panel. Okay, can't be down, can't be admin. Check something else. Oh, here we go. We have it over here. HRF the URL, HTML programmers. Have the basics of HTML. So to solve this particular lab, what I did, I checked the source, then then I search for the admin. Okay, scroll one, can't be this, two, can't be this, three, can't be this, some JavaScript, can't be this, is admin false, can't be this. Then we have well, it's our URL. I think we can solve by adding this URL on that particular point. So we come over here, then we add it at the end here. Okay, we took this was our URL, so we add our domain URL here. The unpredictable part, unpredictable URL is this admin and some junk stuff. So we copy it, then we browse, try to access the panel, solve the challenge. Wow, we are in, right? Yeah. So to solve the challenge, what we do, we need to solve the lab by accessing the admin panel and using it to delete the user Carlos. So our next step is to delete the user Carlos because we are already in. By just accessing the admin panel, we view the source, check for admin, then view the directory on the browser, then you access it. So we delete the user Carlos. So the lab. Oh, nice! Congratulations! Yes. So it's our second lab. We have solved it by just practically we access the lab, do the source check for admin, then add the directory over here. Check for our third lab. For our third lab. Okay, it's a vertical privilege escalation because we are a user, we are an attacker. Then we have just accessed the admin panel by maybe a simple trick, right? But it's a P1, it's a critical vulnerability in a pentest, it's a critical vulnerability in BugBounty, it's a P1. The integrity is exceptional. So our next challenge is third challenge, that's a user role controlled by the request. User role controlled by the request parameter. Okay, solve this particular lab. To solve this particular lab, this lab has an admin panel, which is stock admin, right? Which identifies administrators using a fungible cookie. So we need to have a cookie editor. I have mine already over here. Solve the lab by accessing the admin panel, using it to delete the user Carlos. You can log into your own account using the following credentials. That's a winner and Peter. On this lab, so it is to just log in. Then we have a fungible cookie. So maybe we do what we call cookie editing using our cookie editor. Let's access our lab, our laboratory. I hope the demo bots with us tonight. Yeah, here we go. The user role controllable by the request parameter, so we can log in. So we can be able to log in as that. Can log in. Then username is winner. Our password is Peter, the Bible, Peter of the Bible, walked on water. Okay, here we go. It's our account. Okay, we are a user, right? So what we do here, we do what we call our attack. We are carrying out a vertical privilege escalation because we want to access the admin panel. Let's check the cookie. It's a cookie. Oh no, VPN, right? Yeah, here we go. Admin session. So admin is false, right? This is right because winner is not an administrator. So what we'll do here, we just edit this one from false to true. Then I will save, right? Save. Then we can just restart our browser. Wow, we are in. Because how? Because you can see you can access the admin panel already here. You can access our admin panel. Then I'll delete the user Carlos to solve the lab. Oh, yes, we're done. Just a quick one. To solve this particular lab, to obtain this vertical privilege escalation or broken access control vulnerability, what we did, we accessed our lab, logged into as a normal user, in every, let's say in a particular e-commerce, let's say Jumia and stuff. So then maybe simply, if our developers made mistakes, the security team, so you just edit the cookie. And what can we see is that the application trusts the request parameters. That's what called the front end, not the back end. So it uses the authentication and authorization on the front end, whereby we can be able to manipulate and attack. That's how we solved our lab. So our next lab is let's solve this one. User role can be modified in the user profile. Seems interesting. So user role can be modified in the user profile. It's our next lab. At this particular lab, you can see that this lab has an admin panel. It's only accessible to logged in users with role ID 2. Pardon? Okay. This lab has an admin panel, which is a stroke admin. It's only accessible to logged in users with a role ID 2. Okay, it's our first hint that To access the admin panel, to successfully have the privilege escalation, we must use the role ID, which is true. Maybe at some point, maybe in JSON and stuff. So solve the lab by accessing the admin panel and using it to delete the user Carlos. You can log into your own account using the following credentials. It needs us to use a BugBounty. So as a first step, I just maybe use what we call a success the lab. Success the lab. Okay, success the lab. Everything is already set on my point. I have the Foxy proxy. I have the BugBounty. I'm using Pro Edition version. So everything is already set. You can maybe have the tutorials if you have a hell of time setting this stuff. So back to our lab. Let's just first maybe reduce our scope on the reduce our traffic on the BugBounty. You can go to our target scope scope to avoid the what we call the Firefox settings and stuff. Firefox notifies you that the request was successful. Maybe it was denied. It was an error 500. Those are few steps. Okay, come on here. Oh, so successful. So HTTP history. So can come here. To solve our lab, so we need role ID to somewhere. So our lab, how can we do this? It gets interesting. It's our lab. So we just first login, can proxy our traffic. What's gonna be just tonight? Okay, so we log in. Our username is Peter. No, it's winner. Then Peter as our password. We are almost in. Okay, we are in, right? It's our username and passwords checker for something interesting here. Check account post request sounds good. Nothing interesting. Let's start check for account. Let's check for this one. Let's try to do what we call update our email. Oh, here we go. At least we have our VC endpoint here. So to solve this particular lab, you just log in to your user, maybe winner. After logged in, then you can try to update your email to get the post request to the endpoint my account change email. You can see the request is here. Our email that we changed it was we changed our email from winner at staff.botsiga.net to attacker@gmail.com. Our requester, let's send the repeater, data room, send the request. All right. Our request is winner. So role ID is 1. So to be an administrator panel, to gain the vertical privilege escalation, to gain the broken access control vulnerability, you just need to get role ID 2. So what we do here, we just try to craft some JSON. Maybe you can forgive me, I'm pointing JSON, so we can get some 2 or 3 errors here. So we have role ID 2. That was our error. I think we put JSON. Oh, let's get some comma here, right? Yeah. Oh, yes, we're in. So back here, this lab has an admin panel. So with role ID 2, we access the admin panel. Follow the redirection. Okay, can show the response in our browser. Okay, we have the admin panel here, meaning that we have successfully achieved our broken access control. Access the admin panel, delete the user Carlos, save us more time. Oh yes, so the lab. Just our first one, first one walked through. The lab had this one admin panel. So to log in, admin logs in the role ID too. So just do what we call role ID 2. So just get the requester to our endpoint. Maybe you try to change the email. Then I guess that the request the endpoint my account change email, your email, role ID 1. So you bring here, you edit and add your role ID 2, sending the request. So you can see that you are able to access the admin panel by using this trick. So we are able to achieve our privilege escalation by using this particular symbol trick. Right? Yeah. Let's continue. Our next lab. We have some 2 minutes. User ID is controllable by request parameter. Okay, it's another particular vulnerability whereby the, developers, maybe developers and the testers and stuff, those guys, when the developer are given a web application, they give the front end, the browser full control. Okay, not full control, but some authentication authorization privileges, making because us as attackers can able to edit the request maybe using a proxy, using BugBounty, using Zap and stuff. So here, the user ID controlled by the request parameter. This lab has an horizontal privilege escalation vulnerability on the account page. To solve the lab, obtain the API key for the user, Carlos, submit it as the solution. You can log into your account using the following credentials. For horizontal privilege escalation, this means that maybe I am a normal user. I can be able to access you as you also you are a normal user. So I, as a normal user, maybe again as an attacker, I can be able to achieve. Okay, I can be able to access your details. Meaning, okay, can you say like the cases of IDOR? That's what called the horizontal privilege escalation. For vertical privilege escalation, is accessing the administration rights, something like that. So let's access our lab immediately. Save more time. Close this. And disruption. That's our lab. Here we go. To obtain the API key for the okay. So let's log in. User ID controllable by the request parameter. So meaning from a larger perspective, we'll edit the request parameter and to be able to get the API key, right? Yeah, let's continue. So our username is winner. Our password is Peter. Peter of the water. Jesus Christ. Okay. So it's a API key for winner, right? Yeah. To solve this particular lab, we need to get the API key for the user Carlos and submit. Let's check our traffic key. Check our traffic on BugBounty. Robots.txt is not interesting. Something like a post request. Post request. We need something that user ID because that's interesting. We have no user ID. Maybe let's click here, restart our profile. Oh, we got our user ID, winner. send the request to the repeater. Then you can try to check. I have an API key here. Okay. So the request, the endpointer, the user ID winner, the API key is here. So we send the request. Check for the API key. API key. Yeah. Okay. So to get access to Carlos account, to get access to Carlos account and have a look at the API key. So we edit this particular parameter. Carlos, right? Yeah, Carlos. Send the request. So it's our API key. It's our API key over here. Over here. It's our Carlos API key, right? Yeah, Carlos. Is this map set clear? Check on the screen. Can try to do something like because that user options display font size can take 13. Oh, okay. 13. Well, it's almost clear. So it's our API key. What I did, I just edited the request here, whereby we add winner to Carlos. Then we are able to access our API key over here. If you take the API key, we submit to score the lab correct. Well, yes, that's the simple trick. First walkthrough to access to then the API key for the user Carlos. What I did, I just edited the parameter, the user ID to the name winner and then Carlos. So and I got the API key. Our next lab to save one more time. I can have a look at. Okay, let's have a look at this. One seems interesting because yeah. For AD1 vulnerabilities, broken access control vulnerabilities, most people are used like maybe to ID1 and predictable stuff. So for this particular lab, the user ID controlled by request parameter with unpredictable user IDs. Wow, it's gonna be interesting. This lab has a horizontal privilege escalation vulnerability on the user account page that identifies users with GUIDs, global user identifier, something like that, right? Yeah. So to solve the lab, find the GUID for Carlos, then submit his API key as the solution. You can log into your own account using the following credentials. Okay, let's access our lab immediately. Our lab. It's loading slow. Don't like this. From the lab, let's get find the GUID for Carlos. So by proxying our traffic, let's have first what we call, let's open this here, then let's log in first. Okay, our username is winner. Password is Carlos. No, why? I'm losing memory. Password is Peter. Don't save. Okay. Peter. Oh God. Failing backup. Okay, but anyway, we should be in. Okay, so our username is Carlos. Our API key is this one. So we need okay, our username is winner, right? API keys over here. So to solve the lab, we need to get the API key for Carlos, and we submit the solution. How can we get the GUID? Okay, it's called the Global User Identifier for Carlos. So let's go through these blogs. Then find the blog posted by Carlos. Get his GUID. Can go through them, all of them, and tab, still new tab. Okay, was posted by Carlos. Wow, it was interesting. So, Carlos, really this. All of them are posted by Carlos. Okay, no worries. So, okay, to get the GUID, let's click on the user Carlos. Maybe let's check on traffic behind here because we wanna check the traffic here. Yeah, okay, right. So we click on the user Carlos. Now about traffic. User ID, global user ID. Okay, it's the one I think. So we take the user ID, we note it down, copy, paste, control, copy, paste, 8 to A, right? Yeah. So to solve the lava, okay. So we come back here to our lab and try my account. Okay, at this particular point, you can see that our account has this user ID, GUID. So this is the one that will do what you call tampering with it, right? To access the API key for the other guy. So we send them to our data room. That's our repeater to grant us permission to edit. Where are we? Where are we? Okay, no, we are not testing for smuggling. So let's close this. So send the request. So my account ID. So this my account ID is for winner. Winner is over here. So maybe you can confirm, right, by checking the API key over here. So you can write API key. So it's N and I, right? I, right? So this is for winner. So let's try to paste the user ID for Carlos. ID for Carlos. Send the request. Check the API key. Wow, it's API key for Carlos. Meaning, if this was a live application, if this was maybe a shopping application, an e-commerce website, then you do this particular stuff, you could be able to gain access to someone's private detail, to someone's what they call email number, bank credentials, and a lot of private information. So we take the API key to submit. Because of time, we need to get some more skills on more labs. So submit the API key over here. Wow, yes, we're done. So first walkthrough. So what we did, we needed what we call a global user identifier. This let's say this is a live e-commerce website. Okay, I like hacking e-commerce website. So this particular lab, it's vulnerable to broken access control, whereby the user identifier, the global user identifiers, are not sensitively and maybe protected. Let's say something like that, because I can take your user ID, global user identifier, edit by removing mine, then I can get access to your particular account details and can do something else. So our next lab is we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere because we're getting something getting more interesting. So our next lab is user ID controlled by the request parameter with data leakage in a redirector. Okay, most of us, probably 90%, probably 99, probably all of us, when you are trying to do what we call in the suit, trying to just let's say SQL injection, okay, not SQL injection, when you are trying to do what we call to log in and you use invalid login credentials. So what the application does, you find that developers are like clever enough to do what we call the redirection. A top redirection. You try to log in with invalid credentials, you are redirected to the official login page. So at this point, they leave it open for us. Maybe they leak some details on the redirection stuff. That's why you have this particular lab here. So this lab consists of an access control vulnerability, broken access control vulnerability, where sensitive information is leaked in the body of a redirect response. To solve the lab, obtain the API key for the user Carlos and submit it as the solution. You can log into your own account using the following credentials. So let's access our lab immediately. Oh, this is our lab. Wow, someone's scanning a key. I don't like this. Okay. So our lab. Uh, User ID controlled by the request parameter with data leakage. So to solve this lab, obtain the entity for the user Carlos and submit it uh, as the solution. Okay, let's log in. Let's log in. What are our credentials for login? Is winner and Peter. So we log in. We have to log in as our first step to solve this particular vulnerability. So we log in. Our username is winner. Our password is Peter. Peter. So we log in. Oh, okay, no saving. We have memory. Everyone can remember winner and Peter, so we don't need to save it over here. Because of some malicious guys, malicious JavaScript code, we steal all the password. Okay, sorry. So let's check our traffic here. Let's delete this. Probably check our traffic. Okay, get back here. So click on our account. And we see something interesting. Okay, Goris. I think Goris. So send this one with the repeater because it seems an interesting point. Whereby we change the first data room. Wow, magic. Send it again. Repeater. Here we go. So to let's try to edit. Okay, let's first send the request. To see the response. Okay, hacking on a live website, then you come across a small cookie like this, something like this. You can test for what called cross-site request forgery and other vulnerabilities because it's not a secure protection. Well, that's something else. So it's at 200, okay, right? So let's try to do what? Let's try to add an invalid username here. Who is Carlos? Carlos, right? Carlos. 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 I don't know the spelling somehow. For the spellings, right? Carlos. Wow. Carlos. Carlos. Okay. So we send the request. Oh, the demo gods, we need you back. Okay, right. So what I was saying about. So you can see we have some redirection error 302, meaning that an invalid username leads you to a redirection, whereby at times this can lead to leaking sensitive information such as usernames and passwords, leaking maybe access tokens, leaking secrets, leaking what else? Some okay, the access keys and stuff. So this is for top developers. I mean, it's a skill that developers came across. It's a skill, okay, not came across. It's a skill that most developers I mean developers, real developers implement it. So by implementing this skill, they give us more attack space. So by adding an invalid username, we get a followed redirection. You can check for the API key here. Okay, it's our API key. So we'll submit this to solve the lab. Submit this to solve the lab. Submit solution. 1, 2, 3. Why? Good. Um, okay. Start. Wow. Oh, it was solved there. Okay. So you can find passwords linked here, usernames, emails, bank credentials, and stuff. Okay, some petty stuff, not petty. Some are PII stuff, private information. Let's solve our next lab. Okay, put a proxy here. Next lab. I think that let's solve some lab for IDR because of time. Um, okay, it's a same vulnerability as this one. Let me get the request back so I can explain using the latest request. Right, sorry. Find Carlos, sorry. Yeah, it's our request. Okay, so I request. So for this particular lab, it's a password. A password links over here. There's nothing more uh, critical. So instead of the API key, we have a password over here. Yeah, okay. Instead of the API key, we have a password over here, and use the password to log in the username administrator. Then you get the lab solved there. Um, let's do the last lab for IDR. Then okay, so IDR, the simplest vulnerability that you will ever hack. Okay, if you are new to BugBounty, I just give you a tip. Lean on the broken access control vulnerabilities. Why? Number one, automation tools don't detect these particular vulnerabilities. Number two, they are very easy to get. Number three, they are critical vulnerabilities. They are P1's exceptional vulnerabilities. Uh, they tend to pay more. They pay a lot because P1 pays the maximum payout from our program. That's it. So our vulnerability is insecure direct object references. This lab stores user data logs directly from the server's file system and retrieves them using static URLs. So the lab by finding the password of the user Carlos, logging into the account. So we access the lab, meaning we'll get something like the IDR, right? Okay, it's our lab. Oh, what do you do? Hello? Ah, so okay, no need to log in. So we go to our live chat, focusing on traffic behind here. Let's have a look at our traffic, our live chat. When you see something like a live chat, the first thing that you should have in mind is called the web sockets, right? So we can chat. Let's chat. Hi, hi. We wanna talk tonight, 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 right? Yeah. So we send the message. Okay, you can view the transcript. And with the transcript. Wow, this is it. Okay, here we go. So open it. Okay, let's open it. Okay, that's we don't want this. So to solve the lab, this lab, the okay, let's say the web application stores the chat logs directly on the server uh, file system and retrieves them using static URLs. Okay, on different web application, there are those particular web application with support stuff down here. So whereby you chat live, so you can apply this technique over there. Um, okay, so there are by finding the password for the user, Carlos. So you do what you call getting the transcript. Okay, let's send this one the repeater. Repeater, send it. Alright. We have no password here. Okay, we can send the intruder for simple brute force. Clear. Let's highlight this one here. Add, add the payloads. Numbers from 1, 1, let's say 20, right? Step 1, that's start our attack. And then you can filter for the 200 success only request. Oh, that's our request. So between one of these requests, one must be having the password. We can have a look at the response. One beginners tonight. Okay, it's a must be there one. So the request are using one.txt. The response gave us the password. So our password is some crazy stuff over here. So the lab by finding the user Carlos. Oh, so what we need, we need to log in. My account, we log in using Carlos and this password to solve this particular lab. So come on, Carlos. What? Carlos. And the password, right? Log in. I need to save. Well, here we go. So we are logged in. I think we have solved the lab, right? Yeah. That's a symbol IDR. So symbol IDR. There we go. It's a symbol IDR. Can I highlight here? Maybe you have come across a particular endpoint with this stuff. Then maybe by maybe 1 and 7 pick some good stuff. So what you do, you take the intruder, you can brute force it, maybe from 1 to 10K. Nobody knows. Nobody knows that at the 8,000 stuff, we give you those juicy stuff. Okay, I found a given vulnerability was a symbol, not a symbol IDR. What happened? That particular website, okay, it doesn't pay. It's a VDP. So the application has URLs, picking what we call configuration files. The URL was stuff. Then the first one was something like 02. Then I come across again another one, 99. So what I do, I brute force it from 1 to 10K. Then I come across between 3 endpoints, still looking the same configuration files, but they were between 1 and 99. What are them? But from the payments of VDP. Okay, that's for tonight. That's our session. Any questions, please? Any questions because of time? Let's handle questions. That's our session for the broken access controls for tonight. Okay. Section. You can unmute your mic if you have a question. Or chat the question on the chat box meanwhile. Okay, any questions? Meanwhile, as we keep receiving any questions. So on our session now, we highlighted maybe some few tips. I can give you a few tips over here for what we call bug bounty hunting. When doing bug bounty hunting, there's this simple extension, what do you call it? Just minor. You should not miss this particular extension because just by leaving it open, okay, it doesn't need any skill just by installing it. When doing your hunting and processing your stuff, the extension, what it does, it crawls through the what we call the JS endpoints, and by crawling through the JS endpoints, it gets the sensitive information such as the API keys. Okay, can have a look at it on the extender. JS minor, is it JS minor, JS minor. There goes the extension. Okay, so what the extension does, it crawls something information. Okay, the Jasmine extension can get you some passwords, the API keys, access tokens, and stuff. Then you can validate them and get some bounty. Mostly because let's say you have got a particular login, logins. Let's say the database login. You log in. Those are P1 critical. Maybe yeah, it's a critical vulnerability and stuff. So some simple tips I can say that one tonight. Then the prompting stuff we did this of using traffic, but it's not a tip. Uh, Something else. I don't know. Uh, okay. The brute forcing. Yeah, broken access control needed to be used at the intruder. You need to brute force the different entries. Let's say 1 to 10. Uh, Perhaps maybe to give you a particular tip, anyone can see no question. We have this website that we call the what do we call it? Call it bit bit bit.ly. Let me use this. I think it's my second time to use this in explaining the ideal vulnerability. Okay, so okay, let's do some talking. So bit.ly. Okay, let me some locking. Okay, we have this particular shortener. Um, oh, here we go. Let's open this. This one gives us something else, maybe an API. Okay, not for now, maybe for another day. But we have what we call a complex IDR. Complex IDR at the endpoint. Okay, let's say now you don't have blue.txt. You have come at a particular point whereby the developer has said maybe the object to be viewed by something crazy like this, right? Oh, let's make it right because you force a lot of stuff. So let's say something like okay, the GUID 5 Z Z let's see some I KJ we have come up across a particular point like this. So what you do, you send the request to the intruder. At the intruder section, you can do what you call the cluster bomb attack. Come here. Let's say you can highlight the 9, highlight 9, come highlight 8, come highlight J, come highlight. Okay, let's see. Okay. So then you can do what you call a cluster bomb. And on the payload section, first payload was a number, first and second was a number. So come here, numbers are from 0 to 9. Step 1. Then come second payload, still is numbers. Numbers come from 0 to 9. Step 1. Again, we come here on our third one was letters. So it's A to Z. What's A to Z? How do you call it? Hmm. Okay, and from the list. A to Z, yeah, small letters. And I come here, third payload, add from the list A to Z. So you can get what we call the endpoints that are vulnerable to IDR on the simple on the complex endpoints by doing this particular trick. Then you can come maybe on the resource pool, the restrict your stuff here, the number of requests. So your number of requests will be 67K. Then you can start your attack over here. When you get maybe a status code 200, that's a valid endpoint, then I can report the P1 vulnerability, enjoy your P1 bounty. Yeah, that's it. Any question? I think we should be closing the session. Um, how do you access such tool on that platform that you are rolling out? Okay, all right. What I'm doing, I'm using BubSuite Pro. Okay, let's say BubSuite. BubSuite. BubSuite is a tool. Let's say like a proxy and stuff. BubSuite is all over. Using Kali Linux, okay, you can install it even in Windows, but it's pre-installed automatically on Kali Linux. You can have a look here. Kali, okay, not Kali. BubSuite, right? Yeah, it's a BubSuite Community Edition. It's free. You can find it pre-installed on Kali Linux. You can learn how to use it. Mainly used for web security. You can use it for Android. Depends on your configurations. So it's a web security tool in short. You can have a look at it more on tutorials. Can API key be hacked? Yeah, API keys get vulnerable. Let's check API. Okay, it's on my methodology. Let me send it here. You know what? The API keys here can be hacked. So let's say the private API keys and stuff. Try to get the endpoint that test for vulnerabilities of the API keys, right? API key. API. Trying to get from one particular machine over here, and give me a few seconds just to retrieve the stuff. This. API keys get vulnerable. They are like the what you call the access tokens and stuff. There we go, right? I got it. So I can send that section. More. I'm having a slow machine like before. Okay, here we go. So I send it. Down here, we can share the request. Cast. It's getting ready, right? Send the device. Yeah. Let's receive it at this endpoint. Here we go. This is the endpoint for checking if your API keys are vulnerable. You can check them using this. Let me share the URL in the chat box. Share the URL in the chat box. If you find an open API key, let's say the API key is linked on the GitHub section, you can come and check if it's vulnerable. You can report. You can get we call them low-hanging fruits in BugBounty. How do you reckon for broken access control vulnerabilities? All right. For broken access control vulnerabilities, number one, you need to understand the workflow, the logic flow of the application. Let's say we have a given e-commerce website, how it transfers data from the backend, the front end, how it handles stuff. Let's say using the graphical stuff. So you need to know what to call the graphical introspection and the other functionalities. But again, it's easy. Let's say you have come across a point by accessing your panel, your account has maybe what we call ID equals to 53. That's a 53. You can try to change ID equals to 56. Then check out the body content. If you get someone's stuff, those are valid. Those are valid ID or a P1 critical bug. Companies pay the highest amount for such vulnerabilities. Yes, that's it. But broken access controls are the best vulnerabilities to start with because tools don't detect. Even if you use the authorized and staff tools on our web suite, will be full of false positives. So it's better you understand the logic. Keeps getting easy day by day. Another question because you're about to close the session till Thursday. Right, welcome. Can this tool to give more information about the number? Okay, we don't. It's about for the tool. Okay, it's not something simple. It's about Suda. Babs is used for web security, analyzing the traffic as we did the requests and the stuff, uh, looking the request and stuff. Could you open sharing session like this again in the future? Yeah, let me share the group link. Okay, I'll share the group link for you to join. Let me share. No, I don't know how to share the link, but I'm sharing the link in the chat box for our main group whereby we get the updates day in, day out. More questions meanwhile as I share the link. Trying to share the link. Well, let me stop this sharing the screen. Then I share the link. Because it will be easier. Okay, that's the group link. You can join if you want. What if we close the session? We'll be closing in 10 seconds. There's no more questions. No worries, Gideon. Can join our group for more questions. You can drop there. Can meet the gurus and the security staff and top ranking guys. I mean, we keep learning day in day out. 5 seconds. Question. Well, thank you guys for attending today's session. The Shield Thursday BugBounty session that I was postponed for today. That's because most guys last week are on vacation, guys, took breaks, burnouts and stuff. We do so we had to take ourselves for better mental stuff. Okay, so the session was to be held on Thursday, so we postponed it to today. We have done it. Thursday will be live on our live hacking website, not playground. That's gonna be interesting because we wanna learn how to attack live websites. That's key, right? Yeah. So happy learning, happy hacking. Peace, guys. If you wanna find me, you can find me on Twitter. Share my Twitter and on the chat box.